Have you ever wondered what it feels like to chase shadows in a yellow cab at midnight? The engines growl, drowning out your heartbeat, while the meter ticks like a bomb counting down to broke? On a rain-lashed October night in 2010, that's exactly where Alex Rivera sat, 32 years old. His square-jawed face illuminated by the dash's sickly green glow, dark brown eyes narrowed against the smear of wipers, battling endless sheets of water on the FDR drive. At 5'10" and a wiry 165, honed lean by border treks and skipped suppers, Alex had cropped black hair starting to silver at the temples from relentless strain, thick brows furrowing over a gaze that held the quiet storm of a man who'd gambled everything on America's glow. Clad in a faded navy flannel, over a grease-flecked white tee, jeans worn thin at the knees from 12-hour slumps, he exuded a posture of coiled endurance, shoulders broad but slightly bowed, hands collused and steady on the wheel, like it was the only anchor in a sea of uncertainty. Fresh from a Greyhound rumble across the Texas line, green card creased in his wallet like a fragile truce, Alex netted just $47 after gas, tolls, and the medallion lease that clawed $1,000 a month from his veins, barely enough to wire 30 to his ma in Guadalajara, or fend off the eviction wolf at his Bronx door. The stakes? Crystal. One more bad night, and he'd drag his sister Rosa back across the border empty-handed, dreams of stability dissolving like exhaust in the downpour. But here's the jolt that flips the rear view. That same Alex, dismissed by banks and battered by storms, forged a green ride-sharing empire valued at $12 million by September 2025, not through some app fairy dust or nepotism nod, but by clawing through 250,000 miles of failure-fueled asphalt. From diesel-choked alleys to electric hums echoing off Hudson high-rises, his saga screams the unvarnished truth. The American dream isn't a free ride. It's the grind you gut out when the tank's on empty. Yet how does a border kid with pockets lighter than his promises turn tailpipe poison into a fortune that outlasts the flash-in-the-pan startups? Alex touched down in the Bronx on a sweltering July 3, 2005, 27, and unburdened by much beyond a battered duffel. Ma's faded Polaroid in her embroidered rebozo, 200 in sweat-damp 20s from his last Coyote payout, and a work visa that whispered opportunity but shouted scrutiny. The Fox Street walk-up he lucked into was a 300-square-foot crypt at $720 a month, median for unsubsidized Bronx holes. Back then, walls vibrating with the subway's subterranean rumble, roaches marching parades across the linoleum like they owned the lease. He plunged into the underbelly hustle forthwith, elbow deep in suds at a Fordham Road taqueria knockoff, scrubbing platters for the fresh $6 an hour minimum that kicked in January 1st, his fingers puckering like prunes under blasts of near-boiling water laced with onion peels and cilantro grit. Tips trickled, a 50-cent pat on the head from a construction crew nursing post-shift Coronas, or a $1 folded sly from a grandma grateful for extra limes, but the crash of 08 loomed like thunder, orders halving overnight, forcing him to stretch one pot of frijoles across 3 days, while Ma's pleas crackled over the payphone. Alexito, send what you can. The roof leaks again. His square face, etched with faint laugh lines from childhood soccer dust-ups, hardened in the diner mirror, those dark eyes reflecting a flicker of the boy who'd promised her streets of gold. By late 08, the warehouses in Hunts Point beckoned massive concrete tombs where he hauled pallets of wilting lettuce and bruised tomatoes under buzzing halogens. 12-hour doubles that knotted his back like twisted rebar and coated his lungs in the acrid tang of idling semis, spewing diesel clouds thicker than Tijuana fog. 60,000 miles a year he'd log in his mind's odometer, body aching from dawn to dusk drags, savings a phantom hovering at change for the BX9 bus. The lie took root then, burrowing deep as the subway tunnels. This was the ceiling for guys like him, rough-hewn immigrants with accents that tripped over R, S and green cards, scanned twice at every checkpoint. Success? That was the domain of the Ivy suits, the ones who summered in the Hamptons and networked at Soho House, not a Guadalajara native, piecing together Ma's meds from medallion dreams he couldn't afford to chase. Despair's whisper grew louder during off nights at the Apollo Diner on Jerome Avenue, where he'd nurse a 99-cent black coffee in a chipped mug. Eavesdropping on Wall Street, wolves in pressed khakis, trading tips on Lehman shorts and Bear Stearns buys. Why fight it? He'd rasped to his reflection, broad hands cradling the mug like a talisman, the steam curling up to fog his weary gaze. The city pulsed on, indifferent honks from double-parked livery cabs. The sizzle of halal carts under sodium lamps, but late shifts birthed a rogue spark when the radio hummed with Oprah spots on self-made tycoons, their voices slicing the partition like contraband hope. Alex would glance at the crumpled photo taped to the visor, Ma's smile a silent dare. But could a dashboard sermon really reroute a life stuck in neutral? The gauntlet unfurled without fanfare, each trial a sharper blade honing Alex's resolve or threatening to carve him hollow. First Strike crashed in January 2011, peak freeze gripping the Van Wyck Expressway like a vice. A texting soccer dad in a Pathfinder swerved blind into his lane, metal shrieking as the grille accordioned against concrete barriers, steam hissing from the ruptured radiator like a defeated sigh. 3 weeks the cab languished in a Hunts Point impound lot, mechanics grumbling over saltwater corrosion from a prior slush storm, insurance, greenlighting repairs, but ghosting the void. 2,100 in phantom fares evaporated, a sum that could have bankrolled Rosa's border crossing and 3 months' rent buffer. He bridged the chasm with gig scraps, ferrying Amazon boxes in a rented Econoline for $7.50 an hour, knees jammed against the dash, navigating Queen's snarl, while the medallion lease metastasized 300 in penalties, the lot boss hiking daily storage to $50 like salt in the wound. On a brittle February 15th, Alex hawked Ma's heirloom Milagro necklace at a pawn shop on Arthur Avenue for $180 silver chain, glinting one last time under fluorescent mercy, then shoveled instant noodles dry that month, his lean frame etching sharper angles, ribs shadowing beneath the flannel as hunger gnawed like an old debt collector. One more scrape, Rivera, and your pedestrian trash, the dispatcher snarled through radio snow, the eviction sticker blooming yellow on his door for $800 overdue. He peeled it off with quivering fingers, affixing it to the fridge with a Lady of Guadalupe magnet, murmuring to the Virgin's serene eyes, "Not on my watch." The mirror mocked him then, cropped hair, matted with sweat, but he squared his jaw, whispering vows to the empty room. Yet how deep could the cuts go before the bleed turned black? Thawing April brought wheelback rhythm, ferrying bleary-eyed financiers from Battery Park hangovers to Harlem brunches. Their small talk, a bomb laced with barbs about the help, but May's second salvo struck at the heart of his spark. He'd amassed 500 from Phantom Shift premiums, pocketing singles, reeking of dive bar spills during Times Square crawls, where fares begged detours to that falafel joint off 9th. The vision? A roving taqueria cart firing Ma's carnitas pork, simmered 8 hours in cumin-kissed lard, till it shredded like confetti dreams parked at construction sites and market fringes. Nights dissolved into feverish drafts on a Bronx Community College public terminal, fingers dancing over sticky keys till knuckles blanched, the plan ballooning to 20 pages of projected yields and supplier lists. He stormed 5 lending fortresses, Wells Fargo's marble-clad branch on Grand Concourse, Chase's fluorescent hive in Washington Heights, Grameen America's hopeful Harlem outpost, peddling micro-dreams to the displaced. Rejections cascaded like autumn leaves, collateral vacuum, the first banker droned, tie askew. Score scraping 518 reapply in 12. The second dismissed with a clipboard flick. Scalability mirage. The fifth sealed on June 14th, 2012. Ink still wet when Rosa's call pierced the apartment's hush. Hermano, the test's positive, baby's coming. But the clinic bills. He gutted the letter in his fist mid-Fordham red light, horn chorus erupting as rage boiled, revisions clawing 6 iterations till the words blurred. Pacing the Fox Street confines, floorboards groaning under his pacing boots, Alex slammed a palm to the wall, plaster dust sifting like defeat's confetti. The dark eyes that met his in the window's glare burned with a father's phantom fury. Rosa's boy, his nephew unborn, tethered to this teetering thread. How many barricades before the bridge to tomorrow crumbled clean away? October's fury birthed the third Leviathan, Hurricane Sandy. That October 29th cyclone, clawing up the Atlantic with winds gusting 74 miles per hour, transforming subways into aquifers and cabs into flotsam. Alex's leased checker bobbed grotesquely off 125th Street in Harlem's flood surge, saltwater invading the engine bay like venom, frying wires and bloating seats in a briny stew. TLC logs later tallied over 2,000 cabs, similarly marooned, fares citywide, plunging 70% as bridges locked and tunnels drowned. 6 weeks, he staggered in waterlogged timberlands, resume sheaf, sodden underarm, scavenging, 120 weekly from bodega reshelves in Mott Haven, and flood muck sweeps in Red Hook, stale pan dulce his staple, change jingling for the BX-15 crosstown. Blackouts blanketed the grid. Ma's line dead for days, till a cousin's sat phone relayed her terror. Rosa, bunked in his shoebox, miscarried in the 40-degree chill. No power for the space heater. No ER reachable through gridlock veins. Her wail echoing off the thin partitions like a dirge for the unborn. It's the Lord's forge, mijo. Father Ruiz intoned over a flickering votive at Our Lady of Guadalupe. But Alex, slumped on a Riverside Park slab as the Hudson roiled chocolate-brown rage under Sandy's lash, drove a fist into sodden bark, till knuckles split crimson, rain lashing his upturned face, mingling with the hot track of tears carving clean paths down his stubbled cheeks. The creed he'd nursed that this land minted miracles for the pedigreed alone, splintered like driftwood in the surge. Rocking on the bench's edge, broad shoulders heaving, he rasped to the gale, "Basta, I've paid enough." The storm's receding roar left a vacuum, the city a skeleton of its swagger. But in the wreckage's hush, might a single silhouette in the rear view harbor the key to resurrection? November 12, 2012, drizzled fate into the back seat, meter edging 450 from Penn Station's crush when Tom Hargrove alighted mid-40s. Burberry trench shedding droplets like alibis, oxblood briefcase clutched in a grip honed by boardroom brawls. West End Avenue, sharp as you can, traffic's a beast. Came the directive, laced with that Upper East polish that set Alex's teeth on edge. Avenues clogged like clotting arteries, so he nudged the dial to a Shark Tank marathon. Barbara Corcoran's barbs slicing the partition's plexi veil. Tom perked in the mirror, salt and pepper crew cut catching the overhead flicker. Startup sermons for the road-weary? Bold. Alex's chuckle rasped low, flannel sleeve whispering against vinyl. Beats the Mets reruns. You ever lobbed a pitch in the tank? The floodgates cracked, then 45 minutes of unfiltered torrent. The pond Milagros sting, Sandy's submersion scars, Carnita's cart consigned to vapor. Tom, a flat-iron VC with a fund fattened on fintech unicorns, parried sans pity, his queries scalpel sharp. Narrative's your hook, Rivera, but what's the barb? What sells beyond sympathy? Laughter barked from the back as they dissected Uber's sins and Tesla's teas, the brownstone's wrought iron gleam swallowing them on West End's curve. Tom thrust his card-embossed vellum, gold foil firm, and a 20 splash on the 1250 closeout. Coursera audit, Entrepreneurship 101, gratis, 6 weeks flat. Rewires the chassis. Alex's pulse jackhammered as the brake lights dissolved into drizzle, dark eyes devouring the card's coordinates like scripture. Back in Fox Street's gloom, the pawn shop Dell 150 haggling triumph word to life, blue backlight etching hollows in his square features as the enrollment prompt bloomed. Commit? 12 modules stared back, a gauntlet or a gospel. He tabbed enter, the click echoing like a chambered round. But could virtual lectures outrun the repo man's knock? The anvil dropped that instant, a relentless tempering, where midnight oil burned to wick's end, transmuting Alex's raw ore into tempered edge through stumbles that scarred but never sundered. Shift's tale, at 11 p.m., birthed the ritual 2 hours commandeered from 14-hour exhaust marathons, hunched at the Formica slab, under a 40-watt bulb, Coursera streams stuttering over Pilford Street. Mary's Park Signal. Eric Rie's lean canvas sketches birthing in the 99-cent spirals quadrants. Validate or vaporize. The mantras drilled, so he vaulted blind. July 2013, christened the Taqueria Tent, at Brooklyn's Smorgasburg Sprawl. 300 loaned from Primo Manny in Elmhurst. Firing 200 carnitas tacos daily at 4 a piece, large simmered shreds piled with pickled radish zing, cilantro confetti, dancing on steam plumes. 1,200 grossed that sun-baked month, but vendor fees filched 400, and a rogue grill whisker summoned the health squad's gavel 150 net hemorrhage. The cart scourged to sterility, till his palms wept friction burns. Greenhorn tuition, he snarled to the emptying lot, but inscribed it. Flop tally 18, the notebook's ledger swelling with graphite ghosts. Disciplines layered like sedimentary steel. Dawn patrols at 5 a.m. along the Bronx River Parkway's sinuous 3-mile loop. Sneakers slapping dew-kissed macadam to purge the night's dregs. Breaths fogging in January's bite or July's steam. 500 cumulative miles by year's close. Each stride a stake against surrender. Midday respites morph to telephonic sieges. 20 frosts a day from a weather-beaten Tremont bench. Hawking cab courier runs to delis and dry cleaners. The script honed to a blade. Reliable. Rain or route your packages, my promise. 10 rejections per thaw. Voices dripping disdain or disinterest. But the loan, yes, a 2 to 100 catering dash for a bodega quinceañera, tasted of tamale triumph. Grease-smeared grin splitting his face. October 2014 plunged the abyss. The Remittance Rig, a DIY app for seamless southbound wires. 300 Code Academy nights forging clunky code for borderkin. Alpha tested on 5 Hunts Point holdovers swapping beta bugs over beers. Debut, zilch downloads. AWS tabs gnawing 80 monthly from the 8 to 100 war chest till it yawned empty. 15 pounds sloughed to 150. Cheekbones sharpening like switchblades under the bathroom's merciless glare as he prowled the confines. Server suicide note glaring from the inbox. Colossus like Western Union, why joust? A grizzled score sage prodded at the Bronx Business Incubator's free forum fray, fluorescent hum mocking his pitch. Yet the Chronicle burgeoned 3 nocturnal pages, fatigue-fuzzed script logging, 1,247 dials, annum 1, victories a solitary spark in the void. Tom materialized bi-weekly at Midtown's Le Pain Quotidien, oat-milk cortados cooling as he skewered. Moat, Alex? What's impregnable? The epiphany crackled. EVs for this fossil-fueled Frankenstein, clean wheels in smog's maw. March 3, 2015, The Wire hummed 5 grand seed inaugural infusion. Veins thrumming with venture venom. Medallion liquidated for $8,000 to a Yusuf in Jackson Heights' bizarre bustle. Astoria crash pad at Rosa's Sands rent. The Craigslist Dell 2 to 100 Warrior birthing GreenWheel wireframes, till eyelids drooped leaden. June 2016 beta. 12 wheelmen, 500 hauls, firmware faltering 23%. A bolt cell expiring amid Brooklyn Bridge's pea soup shroud 150 appeasement, from Flesh and Blood Fund. Slumber truncated to triad hours. Debug delirium yielding a midnight mutter. Endure. But as hubs hummed tentative, would the metropolis embrace the volt, or voltage the visionary? Dawn fractured over the East River's mercury sheen on September 12, 2017. GreenWheel's whisper launch in Manhattan's vein. 50 Chevy Bolts procured at $450 lease per Luna-cycle from a Flushing fleet baron. 15 depots daisy-chained courtesy. A small business services stipend Alex rested via thrice-revised decks in City Hall's echoey halls. Inaugural moon. 2,300 circuits. 18,000 post 30% wheelman whittles. Constellation ratings, cresting 4.7, as Vice's dispatch dubbed it, Ride hails verdant spectre in Uber's umbra. Expansion etched in exigency. A trio of grizzled TLC vets at 25 hourly from scrimped silos. Armada swelling to 150 electron steeds by 2018's cusp. Burrow blanket sans fossil belch 40 tons CO2 banished yearly. EPA ledger, lauding the purge. Pitfalls prowled. February 2019's digital. Demoniac erased 1,200 manifests, 9,500 restitution reckoning. Vigilance, vetoed by a septet sleepless nights, but a $3,000 Flatiron firewall forger fortified the breach. JetBlue's shuttle-packed fall, 19 juice tariffs 20%, hulls humming LGA to loft lanes. 2020 Spectre clawed visceral 85% patronage plummet, phantasm cabs haunting forsaken FDR phantoms, akin to Revel's later 2025 ride-hail retreat amid charging pivots. But Alex veered to victual vectors, 300 adjuncts activated au courant for grosser galleons, tally scraping 120,000 annuum with payroll preserved, deferred draws his dictum in a larynx lump dispatch. Solidarity surges us seaward, 2022's levy lacerated. 10,000 orbits monthly, 1.2 mil orbit with 65% grist, 50 sockets singing symphony. April 15th, Tom's syndicate surged 2 mil, A round, 8 mil mark soaring, and June airlifted Ma stateside. The Riverdale duplex 450 thou cashed, Palisades panoramas, where her zinnias zested the zest, Armada. Quintet centuries, Tesla trios, Mach-E Mustangs, devouring 1.2 mil traceless treks annum, outpacing Fisker's flotsam fleet in hailing hacks. Forbes forged him 30 under 40, 23, NYU TEDx throne, where he clasped the lectern, salt-threaded crop gleaming under spots, bespoke wool draping his fortified 180 frame. Timber tempered, 250,000 combustion cruises catechized. Helm your horizon, or horizon devours. Draw domiciled 750 thou 23. Vigesimal percent recirculated quinquagenary bursaries for Bronx CC border bairns, crucibles cloning his crepuscular crusade. Yet apex ascended, could antiquity's anchors drag the dynamo down? 47 orbits sunward, Alex navigates with navigator's noblesse. His 5 to 10 silhouette bulked to 180 via Palisades prowls, and Ma's Mole Poblano feasts. Square, mandible, manicured beneath summit. Scrutiny, mahogany orbs alight with acuity's alloy. Crow's feet carving chronicles of conquest's chuckle. Flannel furled for pharaoh suits fractionally eased. Carriage columnar, digits directing discourse with decisiveness once wheel-worn. Graciousness girds his gyre like lodestar. Conclaves commence with Ma's timbre-trilling speaker, her chortles chasing chill from the Hudson's hyalite haze. Solstices summon borrowed bolt jaunts tracing bygone byways. Largesse doubled to cart custodians. Electron aria anthemizing ascent. That checker cage? Nay, hearth patrons, pedagogues, craters, curricula. He avows assemblies, inflection, infused with the inflection once infamy. Bronx incubator infusions weekly Viginti aspirants orbiting the ossified opus. Quatuor millennia, folios fraught with figments. From septendecim stumbles to mille, octingenti quadraginta septem rebuffs, reified as regalia. Vigesimal percent provenance propels EV emancipations for centum medallion martyrs. Fossil fetters fractured plug by plug. Rosa's scion, septum and snaggletooth, flourishes in Alex-endowed stem sanctum progeny pioneer, parsing Python air primers, diminutive digits dramatizing grandsire's grip or oatmeal oracles. Creed calcified to dust. No noblesse oblige, merely mundane maneuvers mastery manifests. The helm, harbinger of hegemony, not halter clasp, can't conquer the course. In disseminating dints, he daubs his daemon, a tacit tumult in the metropolis's murmur. Behold, Alex Rivera, archetype unadorned the archetype assaying his armature, when adversaries admonished abdication, quadraginta septem, to duodecim mil, duodecim annums of duodecim hour dirges. Mille octingenti, quadraginta septem negations, necromanced in the Nick narrative. Quingenti pluvial paces pounded to pummel the pause in his plasma. Columbia's Colosseum? No numina's nod, the nocturnal nave, declivities devouring the doughty, but the apotheosis aperture. That checker's chime lingers in his lope, litany. Ledger's lease lingers not. Thus, Vesperide, Unknit those knuckles from fate's fetter, be it Bronx Boulevard or Burb Blind Alley. Inscribe that insurgent inflection in your inkwells. Ring the rebuff you've relegated, tether treads for your inaugural Aurora lap. The off-ramp's opaque, but oblation's thine. Thy inaugural increment? Commentary. Day 1 Infra. If this ignition's ignition conjoin the caravan.